Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions, and thank you again so much for our time together. It's Thursday night. We'll be out at East Campus again for our second revival night this week, looking at the beauty of the Father's grace, more specifically, the power of the Father's grace. But right now, I want us to come back and look at something that we don't normally think about, and I like those thoughts, in Acts chapter 22, verse 22. The crowd listened to Paul until he said this. Now, whenever you see that, you should look back and go, now, what is it that he said? Verse 21. Then the Lord said to me, go, I will send you far away to the Gentiles. The crowd listened to Paul until he said this, until he said that Jesus told him to go to the Gentiles. Then they raised their voices and shouted, rid the earth of him. He's not fit to live. Now, isn't that amazing? The fact that Paul wanted to take the gospel to the Gentiles, the fact that he recognized his calling of going to the Gentile people, brought so much anger in the Jews that they said, he's not fit to live. Now, considering that the gospel was always to be to the Gentiles, I mean, go back and study the Gospels and what Jesus said about it. The fact that the Jews were always supposed to be a nation that would take the message of God to the world. Forget any of all the Old Testament teaching about that. The hatred of the Gentiles in the heart of the Jews was so deep. The hatred of the Romans, the hatred of the Greeks, the hatred of the culture of the world was so deep that the fact that Paul said he was called by God to take the gospel to the Gentiles made them so angry that they said he's not fit to live. Now, one of the things you have to learn in life is that people will not always agree with who you're reaching out to. I can think of people in my life when I was younger who said, why are you wasting your life in the Philippines? When are you going to return to America and start your real ministry? And my wife and I would look at each other and go, what do they think we've been doing all these years? They didn't like it that we felt that Jesus wanted us to minister in the Philippines, that the Filipino people were the most wonderful people in the world, and what a privilege we have to share the gospel with them. And it made them angry. It literally made them angry. There are others, even in our own nation, let me put the shoe on the other proverbial foot, that when someone feels that they're called to minister to the Chinese because of all the political problems going on right now, they get very angry and say, why do they have to go preach the gospel to the Chinese? It is amazing how bigotry and prejudice makes us hate a person of God who's called of God to go and preach to those people. I want to challenge you today. Maybe we need to open up our heart and recognize that everybody needs to hear the gospel. Every people group needs to hear the gospel. Do not allow your prejudices, do not allow your bigotries to make you angry at somebody who's called to reach a people group that you may not like. Jesus loves the world. Jesus died for the whole world. We need to share the gospel to every person in the world. I dream of a day where we will see such revival that, like in what was then called Asia in Acts 19, every Jew and every Greek heard the gospel in a 2-year period of time. Now that is a dream.